what we're seeing and hear from the experts in this area. I will record today's meeting and I'll make that available to all of you after the meeting. So I'll go ahead and start that recording now.
Recording in progress.
And this morning, we're going to hear from our Chief of Police in the City of Cleveland, Wayne Drummond. We're going to hear from Detective Callahan, who is the Missing Persons Liaison in our Division of Police, and Chief Larry Henderhan, who's the Chief Investigator for the Northeast Ohio Human Trafficking Task Force. So I will go ahead and mute and turn it over to Chief Drummond to kick us off. Thank you.
Good morning and thank you and welcome everyone. I appreciate everyone tuning in. I think we're going to have, I think, a very robust conversation, but I think I want to make sure that we bring some clarity to some of the things that have been reported over the last week and a half, 2 weeks relative to missing persons and more specifically missing juveniles in the city of Cleveland. I just want to bring clarity and make sure that we clear up some of the misinformation I believe is out there. In the city of Cleveland, we have approximately 5 detectives, and we have 5 detectives in each of the 5 neighborhood police districts that are assigned specifically to missing persons, not just missing juveniles, but just missing persons in general. Also, we have a detective that's assigned downtown, which is Detective Callahan, who's an expert, I believe, in missing persons and finding missing persons. He's going to talk in a minute here. We do have missing individuals in the city of Cleveland, no question about it. Now, we take every single one of them seriously. Our detectives take it seriously. Our officers in each of the 5 neighborhood districts take it seriously, and officers in the specialized units. And that's why in the city of Cleveland, we have dedicated detectives in each of the districts. That's how serious we take this particular issue. Also, we have to have context. It's important that we bring context to this particular issue that we have today. If you look at the stats, and you look at the stats, they are startling. They're very startling. Right, we have a number of missing juveniles reported year to date as 1,072, but also, and again, the number is 1,072. But the number returned is also 1,020. So we have obviously outstanding missing juveniles. The vast majority of those juveniles are missing juveniles, are actually runaways, and sometimes some of those are habitual runaways. And I don't say that to minimize missing juveniles. I don't say that. I think, again, it's just to add context. Each of those particular missing persons, whether juvenile or adult, is investigated by our missing person liaison in each of the districts, and then also by our detective, downtown detective Callahan. So we take them seriously, they're investigated, and they're followed up on. If we, the Division of Police, receive information that potentially the circumstances are suspicious in nature, we have our units within each of the districts and downtown who are called out to investigate it. If it's a missing juvenile under suspicious circumstances, not only are the detectives assigned to it, if we need additional help, we bring our detectives from downtown. And if it looks like it's a serious and legitimate kidnapping or abduction, we bring in our federal partners, the FBI and others, to assist us to find that particular missing person. So we have resources that are available that we bring to bear in these particular cases. But every single case in the city of Cleveland relative to a missing person is investigated and are investigated thoroughly by our detectives in each of the districts. It's important to also understand that we have resources available for our people, for our citizens in the city of Cleveland, and in particular juveniles in each of our rec centers. We have 21, 22 rec centers. We have sports that the kids can get involved in. We have exercise classes. We have youth camps and the like. Additionally, we have Hoops After Dark, which is really important. We have a second tryout tonight from 8:30 to 10:30 at Zelma George. So we have activities for our youth to keep them active, involved, and engaged. We don't have anything in the city of Cleveland right now that would indicate through our investigation that we have individuals targeting our kids and using them in human trafficking or otherwise. We don't have any information right now that would lead us to believe anything like that is occurring. However, if there are any cases that come to our attention that has any indication that someone's being sex trafficked or kidnapped, again, we'll bring our resources to bear. I'm going to turn it over now to Detective Callahan, who's going to get into some of the stats that we have as well, and also kind of give you an explanation of what he does and also what the missing juvenile in each of the liaisons in each of the districts they do on a regular basis.
Thank you, Chief. Hello, all. I appreciate you letting me be a part of this today, and thank you, Chief, for allowing me. I am Detective Callahan. I work in the Confusion Center down here. I am the missing persons liaison. And just a little brief description of what I do is I do review all missing person reports that come over from the night before. I work very closely with each of the 5 missing person detectives in each individual districts, and provide them resources that they could help, whether it be through the FBI or through the county, through the human trafficking task force. One thing I do want to stress, though, too, is that each of the districts have a designated zone car that also, on each shift, that also follows up on missing person cases. So it's not just the missing person detective in each individual district, but it's also on each platoon. Each shift will have a missing person car that will follow up on our missing persons. Just one thing I want to stress to everybody and to get the word out there is to let everybody know there is no time limit when you can make a missing person report. There's the illusion that you got to wait 24 hours to make a missing person report, whether it's an adult or a juvenile. It's just not the case. Here in Cleveland, we will never turn down a missing person report. They can be missing for 30 seconds. If they call the police, the Division of Police here in Cleveland we'll make that report. We do follow up on all the missing person reports, regardless of how they're titled. We treat them all the same. So whether they're, depending whether it's an adult or elderly or juvenile, they all get followed up. And they all get followed up the same way. And again, if the investigation leads us to other incidents, then we will call on the FBI or the Human Trafficking Task Force if needed. Couple of things that I just did want to mention, that any kind of tips that you might have on a missing person, I would like and just get the word out there to call 621-1234. That's the non-emergency number for the Cleveland Police, or 911. Or if you want to make an anonymous tip, you can call Crime Stoppers, and that number is 216-25-CRIME, and then get that information. You'll remain anonymous, and that'll get to the proper people in regards to that investigation. I think. Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, one thing I did want to mention is the pictures. I also, down in the Fusion Center, and I do monitor and work on our website here for all the missing people. I do want to mention pictures. Pictures sometimes is a hard thing to get, especially for juveniles. So my word of advice to all parents out there is to talk to your children, know what they're doing, know who they're talking to, know what their social media accounts are. And in regards to pictures, there's a lot of resources out there that you can get a photo. If you can't get on your children's or your child's social media and take a picture, police need those pictures. It's very important. You could also go to the BMV. BMV will allow children and will take photos and get children an ID. You can be 1 year old if you want and get an ID. You can be 3, you can be 5. It doesn't have to be for a driver's license or just a state ID. So they could go to the BMV, and there's plenty of, I think the county, if I'm not mistaken, will do the fingerprinting kits for us and take photos. So getting the photos out there and giving the police as much information as you can when you make a missing person report, what the child's wearing, where the child's known to hang out, their friends, those sorts of things. All that is instrumental when conducting a missing person investigation. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Okay. And I am going to go ahead. I am done here. I appreciate the time, and I'm going to pass it over to Chief Henderhan.
Yes, thank you. I'm the director of the Northeast Ohio Human Trafficking Task Force, and what that comprises is we have various law enforcement partners and victim service providers that are part of the task force. Cleveland Police, Cuyahoga County Division of Children and Family Services, Child Canopy or Canopy Children Advocacy Center, Rape Crisis Center, as well as the collaboratives in both Cuyahoga County and Lake County to end human trafficking. And as part of that, it's about information sharing. And we cover 4 separate counties, 3 other counties, including Cuyahoga County. We cover Lake, Ashtabula, and Geauga as well. Whenever there's a missing child, that information is streamlined. And if there's any indication of human trafficking disclosures or information that a child is at risk, it would come through the task force, through our partners, which Cleveland PD is a part of. Being the director of the task force, I have not seen a rise of human trafficking incidents with these missing juveniles. We work hand in hand with Cleveland PD in the event that a missing juvenile comes on the radar that we can assist in recovering. We do go out and try to locate those juveniles. But as of currently, we have not seen a rise in that, other than what appears as, recidivism with some of the juveniles. It's becoming summer months. A lot of kids get antsy. They have lack of supervision at home, and they want to be out with their friends and, go out into the streets and enjoy themselves in the summer. That's what we're seeing. But if there's any indications of any human trafficking, any intel that we get on it, we do act upon it immediately. What we do have is we have our tip line, which operates 24 hours a day. It's the Northeast Ohio Human Trafficking Task Force tip line, which is 216-443-6085. That can be accessed by anyone. If someone calls that at any time, if they have information of human trafficking, they can call that, and it immediately gets sent out to all the investigators, including myself, 24 hours a day. That includes the other avenues that people can notify with tips, what Detective Callahan said with Crime Stoppers. We also work with NCMEC, on occasion as well, they provide also provide additional services and tips that come through, their phone lines. Our federal partner, it was Homeland Security Investigations. They work hand in hand with us as well. They're a part of the task force. We get tips through there and we work with them hand in hand. So we have a good team here in Northeast Ohio that covers every avenue if an incident of human trafficking comes up or is passed along to us. So as far as the information has come out that we've seen an uptick in it, we've not seen it through my task force. It doesn't appear that if it does come up, I urge people to call those tip lines and get us involved. But a child that is missing or is a runaway, they are at risk for other issues, but it does not necessarily mean that they are being human trafficked.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it. So again, the main purpose of this press conference is twofold. It's to bring more awareness. Larry's absolutely right. We have to bring awareness to missing people in general, and more specifically missing children. So that's it. Again, it's twofold. That's part of it. Missing kids, missing adults, and for folks getting involved to see something, say something. And again, the second part of this is to clear up some of the misinformation that's out there relative to, in particular, Cleveland, that there's an issue with children or kids or juveniles being abducted and used for sex trafficking and otherwise. We do not have that information. As Larry just articulated, they don't see an uptick in it, but we want to make sure that we give our children and our adults opportunities to have something to do during the summer. And again, we have so many programs in the city of Cleveland and their rec centers. So we encourage our citizens, our youth, and the parents and grandparents, the police, get those kids involved and give them activities to be involved in throughout the summer.
Thank you so much, Chiefs. Thank you, Detective. Let's go into a few questions, starting with Dan. Go ahead, please, Dan.
I want to thank the chief and detectives for taking the time for this. So, if I'm getting this straight, and I think, we'll take full responsibility. We were the first to take a look at this issue when we were looking at the city's website. The Cleveland Police Department has a missing persons website. You can database it by age, date, and how long they've been missing. And we were the first to notice that just in a 2-week period, there were 27 children reported missing. Now, we at no point said that they had all been abducted or that there was some sort of human trafficking problem. It's just that number seemed to be surprising. 27 kids reported missing in the last 2 weeks. I went on there this morning. That number is still 25. 25 children missing, reported missing in the last 2 weeks. Again, nobody's saying that they're being human trafficked, but where is the problem? If it's 27 a month ago, if it's 25 in the past 2 weeks, does Cleveland have a runaway problem? Is that where this is?
And thanks for the question. I appreciate it. And I would say that historically in the city of Cleveland, we've had a large amount of statistics related to juveniles running away. And Dan, that's the vast majority that we encounter here in the city of Cleveland are runaways. And a large percentage of those numbers are habitual runaways that we deal with on a regular basis. And we have other issues, which I can't get into now relative to our missing juveniles. What we find too, Dan, is that juveniles, they come home and before they're taken out the system, they leave again. So that's part of the problem that we have. Sometimes juveniles come home and the parents or guardians, they don't call us to take them out the system. So you have those numbers still being reported or recorded and so forth. So it's a myriad of different reasons why those numbers remain the same. And yes, Dan, there's some kids who go missing that just don't want to be found. And there's some adults that go missing, just don't want to be found and so forth. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're being human trafficked or used for sexual abuse or anything like that. It's just it's a complex and vexing issue at times, but we do have the vast majority of our missing people, in particular juveniles, are runaways, and most of them return.
Thank you, Chief. Please go ahead, Isabel.
Hi there. Thank you again for the availability. Isabel Lawrence here over at Channel 3 News. I just wanted to clarify, Chief, those numbers that you read out earlier in the press conference about the active amount of missing juveniles here in Cleveland. I did reach out to your department yesterday, and I was actually given the figure 40 active missing juvenile cases are open, the earliest dating back to April 2nd. But if I'm doing my math correctly here, Chief, from 1,072 to 1,020, those numbers you gave, that seems like it would be about 52. So I'm just wondering kind of what exactly is the open case number right now, missing juveniles, and maybe where is that discrepancy coming from?
Thanks, Isabel. Thanks for the question. Hopefully I can clarify that. I have, again, our missing person liaison who kind of track the numbers for us. And I certainly don't want to confuse anyone with those numbers. So what I'll do is to make sure that we clarify those numbers. So we're giving you accurate information. And we'll do that at the end of this press conference. We'll make sure you get that information.
Thank you, Chief.
Sure.
Let's have Dylan followed by Fox 8, please.
Hi, thanks. Dylan Stewart from Cleveland Magazine. You said that you followed up when you saw things that were suspicious on these missing persons cases. What are those red flags?
For one thing, well, okay, make sure it's off. One thing what we look at is the circumstances behind the missing person. For example, here, any child that's missing under, I believe, 13 years of age, and they actually get elevated up to my level. Just for an example, I get notified about it, and I start making calls and so forth, and I start pushing the bells. So we look at the circumstances behind that. Now, if the circumstances behind that is that the particular child had an argument with the parent and took off, obviously it's a little bit different. We take it serious. We still look for that child, and we continue to look for that child until that child is located. Now we get a call, for example, Dylan, that 14-year-old boy is walking down the street and a car pulled up and snatched him off the street. That obviously, the alarms and the bells go off, as you can imagine. In that particular case, the commander gets involved immediately. We get as many resources as we can on there, as all of the detectives in that particular district. We also call detectives from other districts, and again, depending on the circumstances, reach out downtown here for our specialized detectives to come out as well. And depending how the investigation kind of pans out, we may call in the FBI. If we have information about phones and so forth, we start getting up on the phone, so to speak, so we can track individuals. So again, that's why it just depends on the information that we have coming in. And as Detective Callahan articulated, we take reports from anyone. For example, Dylan, if you're walking down the street, you're driving down the street, and you see something suspicious, you call and say, hey, I just saw a young lady pulled into a car. We take that information and we run with it immediately and start our investigation.
Is there any way to know how many of the active cases are suspicious or being investigated?
We can look into that further. We do, as you said, we look at every single report. We evaluate every single report. Our detectives look at it. And again, based on the circumstances, again, all missing person reports are serious to us. Please make sure we understand that. But we look at the circumstances behind it. And that takes an evaluation of looking at all the reports and then the information involved in the report, and then what we can verify. And so that information is in the reports, and we can find that information out. We know that information, especially the specific detectives. They know that information. So we have that information available to our detectives, and it's also in the reports.
Thank you.
Sure.
Go ahead, Fox 8.
Hi, Maya Belai from Fox 8 here. A couple questions. Is the number of missing kids higher or lower than previous years? And then what additional resources are you all offering to help solve this issue?
Thanks. Good question. I appreciate the question. Yeah, it's up about 20% from when it's about right now, 20%. They're up, and it could be for a variety of reasons. It's the summer months, more kids for whatever reason. I'm sorry to say they go missing. And again, it's for a variety of reasons that we have kids that leave their homes. and the parent. We appreciate the parents and guardians, being very active and calling us so we can find out what's going on. But again, as I stated before, it could be a variety of reasons why they left. It could be based on an argument. It could be just a variety of reasons why they're leaving. And then we take every single one of them seriously. We, again, the detectives will immediately start investigating that. And I would hope that as the detectives are looking, the parents will reach out to us. And we have so many resources here in the city of Cleveland. And I want to highlight again the rec centers and the specialists that we have in our rec centers that can offer aid to all of our residents, and in particular, our residents that are experiencing folks that are leaving or are reported missing, such as a juvenile or an adult. We have resources in all of our rec centers that we can assist those folks, because something like that can be pretty traumatic. So we have, again, folks in our rec centers that can help.
Go ahead, please, Scott.
Hey, Chief, you mentioned earlier the large percent are traditionally habitual runaways. Any idea what equals a large percent? Are we talking 50, 75% of these are habitual runaways? Is it 20%?
Scott, that's a good question, and I can't quantify that right now, but it is a large percentage. And the reason why I can say that and say that comfortably, Scott, is because I've been a police officer 34 years, a chief for almost a year now. I was a district commander, starting with District 6 and then changed to District 5. And of course, I tracked that, and I tracked it very seriously. And what I found, and again, was the vast majority of our missing people were juveniles, and the vast majority of those were habitual runaways. And I mean, there's a really high amount. I just can't give you 90, 95, 75, but it's a large amount because the vast majority of them, Scott, return within a day or two, or by the end of the year, most of them return home.
Are there any sort of programs kind of targeting that population to make sure they don't fall into kind of this cycle?
Again, a very good question. It's again complex because we're not sure. Could be not sure what's going on in the particular home environment that make kids want to leave. Again, it's a variety of things. It could be, again, something as simple, and we see it, and that's why I keep mentioning it, an argument. It could be something as simple as a child did something at school, and they know that they're going to have repercussions when they get home, so they don't come home. And that seems to be the bulk of it. Things of that particular nature when we're talking about kids, something happens, they take off. They get angry, they take off. But generally, the vast majority of those particular kids do come back home. Again, we have resources throughout the city of Cleveland to help families that are going through issues. Again, our rec centers, I keep pointing to the rec center because we have them throughout the city. We have our specialists in each of the cities that can help our kids and help our adults. And also, if they can't help them, they can recommend or send them to places that can offer assistance as well.
And I want to make sure I'm clear that 20% increase, that's year to year, right? As far as missing people?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, so it's a 20% increase for this year so far, yes.
And nothing that points to one reason or another that you've been able to discern at this point as to why?
Not at this time, Scott.
Dan, another question?
No, I'm finished. I just don't think the hand raise was down. Thank you very much.
Got it. Are there any additional questions?
One more question from Box 8. I'm wondering, is there any common thread on where these kids are going when they run away? Is there a specific spot in the city, a specific neighborhood building that you all can maybe devote more resources towards?
I appreciate the question. No, nothing that's jumping out. Nothing from our data would suggest any particular location. What we find sometimes is that some of these kids, they go to friends, homes, just kind of hiding at their friend's home. That's what we find most of it. It's not like they're out sleeping on park benches, because they're not. They're at a friend's house. a neighbor's house and so forth, who may not know that they're missing for whatever reason may be, but there's no particular location in the city of Cleveland that these kids are going to.
Last question from Troy, please.
Chief, I just want to clarify, in the original story that kind of started all this, they mentioned ages 12 to 17. When you say juveniles, are you talking that age range or anyone under 18?
Troy, just anyone, for us juveniles here, for us, it's anyone under age of 18.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody. You do know how to get a hold of me. I'm zikafus@clevelandohio.gov if you have additional questions, and I will have the recording available shortly. Thanks so much, Chiefs. Thank you, Detective. And thanks, everybody, for joining us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you.